Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Please do make sure that you check if you are subscribed to this channel because a big number of you guys are watching this channel without subscribing, and also just make sure you like the video before you watch it. Okay, listen, this interview, you guys, that I watched, I want to recommend it to everybody to watch because it's a good interview. The story is a story that you have to listen to it if you are a parent. And also if you're a young person. Okay, let me just say if you're a human being, you need to watch this interview. But at the same time, I feel like you have to be careful about when you watch this interview because you are going to get very, very emotional watching this interview. If you are somebody that have gone through some type of violation, if you've been violated in some way, um and also if you've been SA'd, and like, I'm just saying, maybe just be careful with these interviews. Like, I want people to watch it, but I know that there are people that maybe it won't be good for them to watch this interview, because I was like emotional myself. I was crying the whole time watching this interview. So there's a podcast called, I think it's KNAP, it's KNAPP. The podcaster is Ugwazi Ntsele. I know this guy from Facebook. I didn't even know that he is over here on YouTube. So I know him from Facebook, from watching his poems. Okay, he's a poet. Okay, so now he has a podcast, and it looks like he's had a podcast for a while because he's on like 13K subscribers. So he's doing an interview with the lady called Sthembile Khanyile, whom I was seeing for the first time, but they are saying that she is kind of popular over there on TikTok. And I'm not on TikTok a lot, so I'm not surprised that I haven't seen her. And she came on the podcast to talk about her life. If I tell you that her life is like her childhood traumas, it's like heartbreaking stuff, you know? So Sembile was violated by her grandfather. That, like, when I had it, I had to stand up and go drink something and get some strength, because I was like, this is going to be a difficult interview to watch. Okay, because we've heard of stories of, fathers, stepfathers, stepmothers, neighbors, pastors, brothers, stepbrothers, but the grandfather. And it's not just any grandfather, it's a biological grandfather, it's her father's father. This lady was supposed to be home and was violated at home. Like, what else were her parents supposed to do to protect her? If I have to protect my child from my father, how the hell am I supposed to do that as a parent? That's a thing that for me was heartbreaking, because if you're living in the house as a family, it's a mom and dad, and then there's grandmother and grandfather. You're not really thinking that the grandfather is going to do something to your child. But what is horrible about the situation is that this family, once they found out about this whole thing, they protected this secret like it was, I don't know, like it called their family, like they protected it. They did not want it to come out. Okay. She became the enemy because she had gone through this thing that now everybody in the family believed it was supposed to be kept as a secret. And because she was the victim, she was victimized even more by the family members trying to protect this secret. That is a part that I really just struggle to understand. Like, different members of the family, the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, everybody is believing that this is a secret that must be kept. Okay. There is an element of the grandfather being financially stable, and maybe because he could afford to take care of everybody felt like they owed him that protection. But I just don't understand, you guys. Like every single member of this family, like nobody in any of the adults that knew about this thing taking place, nobody thought that the priority should be to protect this child. Nobody. So what had happened was that her mom had gotten married to the family, but she had left the family mysteriously. She just picked up and left her kids behind. Okay, so she doesn't have really a story as to why her mother left her and her sister behind, but she was married to the family and just suddenly left, which makes me feel like this family might actually have more secrets than this lady is actually revealing here on this podcast. And some of the secrets maybe she doesn't even know, because at the end of the interview, I walked away feeling like, why did her mother leave this family? I kind of wanted to know that. So the mother leaves, and obviously they don't know what happened to her. And then she comes back after she passes away. She basically left and came back in a coffin. And then I believe that, a few years later, her father also passes away. The abuse starts at a very young age, but her father, she says, passed away before he knew that this was happening. And then she's left with the grandmother, the grandfather. It's a weird situation because what she talks about is how well off the family was. She says that they lived in a rural area where people were fetching water from the river, but their family was so well off that they had, water in the house. They had taps and everything in the house, even though the neighbors would be fetching water from the river or whatever. Now, the weird thing is that she slept in the same bedroom as her grandmother and grandfather, her and her sister. It is weird that the family was okay with that, because if they were well off, why would they think that it was okay for the kids to be sleeping in the same room as the grandmother and grandfather? So they slept on the floor. The grandmother slept on the bed. Grandmother and grandfather slept on the bed, but they slept in their two separate beds. Our parents, Tina, back then, they didn't sleep in the same bed. So they slept on the separate beds, the grandmother and grandfather, but they were in the same room, and the kids slept on the floor. The grandfather would violate this lady as a child while the grandmother was in the room sleeping. And I'm like, not even once did she wake up and be like, what the hell is, I don't understand that. I don't understand. Even if you have ubuthongo engazi ukuthi ukuthathephi, but I feel like that grandmother knew. That grandmother knew. That grandmother had everything. She says there were days when the grandmother would wake up and find the grandfather still sleeping on the floor with the kids, and she would be fussing about the fact that he's still there with the kids. But she would never talk about the thing that the grandfather is doing to the child. Now she got to a point, which this one I've heard, you guys, from a lot of people that have been violated that have siblings, that it will get to a point where they realize that if they fight it, the the violator might actually do it to their sibling. So they will actually get to a point where they almost like offer themselves to the AB, yeah, so that they can protect their siblings, which is what she did. When she felt like the grandfather wanted to do it to his sister, she would offer herself there on the floor where they slept while the grandmother is on the bed. She would offer herself so that could protect her sister. And she said that she did manage to protect her sister because she asks her sister all the time if something happened to her, and the sister always says no, because the sister knew that that was happening to her. Now, you guys, at some point, the family is informed about this whole situation, but the decision is made to keep it a secret. And because it was kept a secret, the grandfather continued. Now, you guys, we're not talking about the story that happened in the ancient days. No, this grandfather passed away like 2 to 3 years ago. And which makes you realize that as I am sitting here today, there's a child in one household somewhere going through something similar, and people are going on with their lives as if something is happening in their family, but they know that something is happening. Now she gets to a point where she is a teenager. She's trying to heal. Now she has moved because this whole thing happens at Inkandla. She has moved to Joburg. And then she meets a boy who decides to do the same to her. Now it's like double. You're trying to heal now. Somebody violates you the same way again. They reported to the police because the cousin that she lived with at the time, I think it was a cousin or an aunt that she lived with at the time, decided that, you know what, I'm going to help you to go and report it. This is it. You know, I guess there was that one person that had some sense. Then, when she goes and reports it, the family of the boy that had done that to her comes to the police station to apologize. But her family, the family of the lady that is a victim, the family of the lady that is telling the story, they start swearing at her, telling her she must have enjoyed it. Now that she's not, and she's regretting it. That's why now she wants to report it. That even the family that was there to apologize to the lady ended up not doing it because of the whole drama by the family, because that family was attacking her. Her family, her own family was attacking her for reporting the case because they were saying, no, you must have lied it. And then at some point she is forced to withdraw the charges. Now, because they were so determined to protect the secret of the grandfather that was violating this child, they were willing to let go of that case that had happened, that everybody believed that it had happened. They were willing to act like that didn't happen because their fear was that if anybody takes this child seriously as far as this recent case is concerned, they will end up revealing what had happened to her and the grandfather. So basically, everything to this family was more important than this child. The grandfather was more, the family image was more important than the grandfather. And you know what the weird thing about edophiles, ne, is that most of the time in our communities, we know ukuthi ubaba walaphayana is an edophile. We know it. Ne? The family will be thinking it's being kept a secret, but most of the time people know. People know what's that one. La ubambe ingane lo wababa lowa. But the family will still be wanting to act like it's a secret. Probably people know that man was an pedophile. But obviously, what are they going to do if the family is so determined to protect him? So now, you guys, it's a horrible story. I don't want to lie. It's even hard to talk about. But if you have a chance, do go watch the interview. What I learned from this interview is that children are not safe from nobody. Sometimes the only thing you can do is to help a child after it happens, because there's no way that somebody would know that the grandfather will, unless that grandfather, because I do suspect that this grandfather must have maybe violated other children in the family. Maybe even these aunts that are now so protective of this secret, even some of them have been violated by this grandfather. They just don't want to say. But if it's not that kind of a case, I feel like sometimes the only thing you can do is protect a child after you find out that it happened. Because it's like when a child is being violated by their own parents, you are not sitting there assuming that the parent is going to do that to a child. A stranger, yeah, we can protect our kids from strangers, from neighbors, from friends, from relatives, but the father, the grandfather, the father, the mother, the brother, sometimes for those, I feel like sometimes if you can't pick up on the signs that this one might do something weird, the only thing you can do is to help a child after. But it's like, but the keeping of the secret, they're fighting to keep the secret. Now, you guys, there is a story about this grandfather, because the grandfather has passed away, and she says that the family members that see his younger in Sangomas are saying they always get messages that the grandfather is not at peace, so he can't move forward somewhere. He's somewhere in the dark. I'm like, I hope that he is in the darkest of darkest holes, and that his soul stay there forever and ever, and that whatever grace and forgiveness that they talk about as far as God is concerned, that it does not apply to this particular soul, that this soul just deserves darkness forever. If there's no hell, they should just create it for this soul, because what he did to this girl, horrible. Anyway, you guys, it is a good interview, but I'm worried that the people that have gone through certain things, this interview might be a lot for them to watch. So if you are seeing me before you see the interview, judge for yourself if it's going to be okay for you to watch the interview. But I guess if you come across the interview before you come across my video, you've already watched it, and maybe you already triggered if it did trigger you. But yes, you guys, I was like, I need to find Sthembile. I couldn't find her on social media because she said she took a break from social media. The fact that she's still alive, the fact that she's still alive, that's the part that's shocking for me, that she is still standing. Anyway, you guys, this was one of my best interviews this week, but it's the saddest interview I've ever watched. I was so emotional. I was tired of crying. I was like, am I on my periods? And I'm like, I'm not. But I couldn't stop crying with this interview, because there were so many adults that did her wrong. There were at so many stages. Somebody could have protected her and they didn't. The grandmother. And then the mother. Sometimes we save ourselves but leave our kids in the mess, because there must have been something that caused this mother to just leave the family but left her kids behind. Anyway, guys, do check out the interview, okay? Anyway, that podcast, I feel like it's good. I like the podcaster. I like his work, so I think I'll be watching more of his interviews. I did like this one, definitely, guys. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Like it before Pumegona, share it with your friends, with your family, and even with strangers in a tanda. Cool.